I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
And there's a delay going on here. It seems like I heard myself before I saw myself on that one.
Wow,
Are you hearing me?
Yeah, I hear you fine. There's no delay either.
Wow, weird. All right. Well, we are the CRM Playaz.
And we are always CRM Playaz with technical issues.
We're kind of getting used to it, but that's all right. Okay. As long as you guys keep, I don't know, doing what you guys do, whatever that is. Well, you watch us. So.
Or quit. Here's what I think. If we have technical issues, everyone out there should quit their jobs.
Well, there's going to be a lot of people out of work if that's the case. All right. Anyway, yeah, we are the CRM Playaz. We do have I think, a really fun show ahead of us. We have some guests, and they're guests that have something in common. And we're going to tell you about that in a couple of minutes when we bring them on. But before we bring them on, we did do an announcement. I think we announced right after this show the new date for the second executive roundtable that we're doing. The first of this year, but it is the second one of all time. Well, for the Playaz all time. And let's see, I do have visuals. If I can only find the visuals, and here we go. Well, make sure I get this right.
Yeah, we actually have a complete list of the attendees now.
Yeah, so here it is, a CRM Playaz Executive Roundtable Convo Part 2. This is the second one.
Those are good pictures.
You know what? I've got skills in putting this stuff together now.
Yes, you do. Damn.
But the real skills are the guys and the actual people on the panel.
I don't know. Your skills are pretty real.
But we had such a great first go around doing this, and quite honestly, we didn't know if it was going to work or not. But we decided, why not try to bring? It's almost like bringing the heads of the 5 families together.
That's right. Well, it works with my nickname. That's all I know.
Well, that's true, since you are the Godfather.
Mm-hmm.
And so we did our very first roundtable with senior level execs and, quite honestly, buddies of ours from Microsoft and Oracle and Adobe and SAP and Salesforce. And it went so well. I mean, we were kind of blown away with how, not by how well they all were great, but just how well it was received by everybody. 2.5 hours, 45 minutes. Well, I guess it was an hour and 15 minutes of the big panel. And then we brought in some of our buddies from the analyst world to kind of give their take of what they heard. And it was 2.5 hours of greatness. So to the point where there were over 1,100 comments that came in during that 2.5 hours. And there was no way in the world I could pop all that stuff up. It was just too much going on there.
It was actually amazing interaction going on. It was genuine interaction as opposed to lots of comments. I mean, people were like talking to what the executives were talking about. They were kind of, it's a fairly, let's say, a fairly senior audience. So they've got a lot of experience in history, and they very independent thinkers. So a lot of people were sort of conveying their thoughts, their ideas, right, their capability, their way of viewing what the panelists were saying. And it was really dynamic. It really was. It was great. I loved it.
So it was so good that we needed to do it again, and we wanted to bring on some other voices and some other of the leading vendors to join us. And so, real quick, we'll go through these names real quick. Here is in alphabetical order. Here's who's going to be joining us on February 25th at 1:30 p.m. East Coast time. I'm gonna turn it over to the Godfather to give a little bit of commentary around each of our guests. So this is going in alphabetical order. Celia Fleischaker.
Yep. She's the chief marketing officer at Verint. She's old friend. I mean, she recently came as she was the CMO at Pros. She's a whiz, man. She's an awesome CMO. The thing about her too is she gets engagement. I mean, she truly gets it, and she's also very good at organizing marketing for it. I guess that's one of the best ways to put it. And now she's going to get some, public visibility too about her ideas. She's been at Verint for several months now. She's already making a big splash there. She's a truly, really a wonderful person besides being great executive.
Oh yes, I met her at Pros, and very little interaction, but the interaction I did have with her wanted me to interact more, which is why I'm really glad that she's joining us for that panel. And joining Celia, once again in alphabetical order, Lou Orfanos, GM and VP of Product for HubSpot. And I will be the first to tell you, we both known HubSpot since really its beginning. Mm-hmm. And I don't know Lou at all, although he was really gracious to on email as we invited him to be a part of this. It seems like he has a pretty fun and interesting personality. I think he's going to fit in pretty good on this panel.
Yeah, no, I agree. I will second that. I don't know him at all. Right. And right. But to exactly the point, he's got a good smile. The guy is like clearly kind of ready to roll for this thing. And the other thing is HubSpot itself is, there's a company that from when we first knew them, which goes all the way back. In fact, you and I think, were the only two to ever actually do advisory days for them all the way back when. They have changed dramatically in terms of even their mission. And so it would be really interesting at some point in this to see how those changes have impacted how they think from the standpoint of, the world at large. And because it's really been a dramatic evolution. It's been not a revolution. It hasn't been a revolutionary change. It's been an evolutionary one, but it's been substantial.
Yeah. Now they were not calling themselves a CRM company when they first started. Now they are
inside marketing.
Yeah, but it'll be interesting to see, kind of get his perspective as part of this overall panel. So we're looking forward to Lou joining us. We're also looking forward to. We go from somebody we didn't really know that well to somebody we know pretty well.
Oh yeah. Well, the reason that Pega won the BYOB 2020 is because this guy got them in there.
Wait a minute. The reason that there was one of the reasons that there even was a BYOB, right?
That's right. That man stood up and played a Rolling Stones riff right in the middle of a CRM Playaz episode. And here we are today. And not only is he a really good guitar player and band member, but he is the CTO of Pega and thus leading the vision for the technology in the company. And if you can't get any better than that, he manages to have been, prior to Pega, at one point in his life, an improv comic, right? So, and you know what? It shows. It actually shows. He is hilariously funny besides everything else. So he's a superstar CTO. He's a visionary CTO, which is a really interesting combination. And to be perfectly honest, not that often seen. And at the same time, just a great person, just funny, smart, outgoing, definite extrovert, and a hell of a guitar player.
I mean, you don't usually see a CTO who's a comedian and a musician and a visionary.
No, in fact, he's literally the only one in the world.
So we are glad to have our buddy with us. We're also glad to have Nick Zitzen. Did I say that right?
Yes, you did. It was perfect.
Because you don't usually see a name with like the TZ combination once. But twice? Really?
Literally, if you live in Greece, you probably see it. But but you probably see it in Greek, which means you don't see it in that kind of character set.
There it is.
Right? So Nick is amazing. Now, I've gotten to know him well more recently than prior, but I knew of him a lot at SAP, and I met him thanks to Josh Greenbaum, one of our buddies who's been on the show a few times. Nick, I used to call Nick the secret head of marketing at SAP because everybody in marketing, including CMO, reported up to him. And the thing with Nick is he's one of these guys with this very sharp mind, the kind of mind where you're not only are inquisitive, but you put things together quickly and understand the value of it, like quickly, like very fast. And now, he came over a little after Bill McDermott went to ServiceNow, and he was promoted to chief strategy officer. And I've gotten to know him really well, and I absolutely love my interactions with this guy. Every one of them, just aside from being productive and fruitful and interesting, they're just fun, really.
You know what? We had him on the show at last year.
That's right.
I forget exactly when, but I remember him being on the show, and I remember he had a really good sense of humor. And he also has probably the best comment that was left on the announcement of this particular roundtable. He asked if we will be shipping the bourbon to the panelists ahead of the actual event. Well, I told him that he needs to actually look towards you.
So the answer is maybe, right? So, well, here's the thing. So I now know Don likes Blanton's. That's specific. I can deal with a specific bourbon. I don't know what Nick likes. I don't know if Celia or Lou or let's put it this way. I don't know first of all, I don't know if anyone else likes bourbon. I don't even know if some of them are not drinkers, right? So here's my thing. It's my first challenge to the 5 of them. If you are willing to give me, and all 5 of you have to do it, your preferred bourbon, and if you say Pappy Van Winkle, you're ruled out immediately because I'm not buying that for you, right? Because I'm not spending $3,000 for that, right? If you can give me, all 5 of you give me your preferred bourbons, and they don't bankrupt me, I will send you each a bottle. That's a commitment. Wow. But all 5 of you have to give me it. Not 4, not 3. If you're not a drinker, say you're not, and give me a preferred other drink, alcoholic or not. So there has to be, so one way or the other, a potable libation has to be in there, a quaffable liquid, a potable libation, a drink that you can swallow without choking, right? So you send me those, all 5, and you got them.
You heard it here first, folks. You heard it here first. All right. So that leaves just one other panelist, and that is Vijay Sundaram, Chief Strategy Officer from Zoho. All right.
He's our man. Man, this guy is what you see in that picture is pretty much what he is. That's what he is like. That big, friendly face, right? He's a tremendously friendly guy. He's really, really, look, clearly Zoho's has had very good strategy and has done really well with it. So, and this is the driver of it. I think he's been there from the beginning or near, not quite. No, he came a little later, I think.
He's in the 20-year club though.
Right. He is in the almost there for the entirety of the time. Exactly. Which is, I think they're 5 this year. They're 25. So he's been in the plus 20 club. He's been he's been driving Zoho's strategy for that time, and they've been wildly successful. So he knows his job really well, but he's also and both you and I know this, man, he's just a pleasure to talk to and work with and, just sit down and chat with.
Yeah. It's not often that we do something that really goes against our core beliefs. But, we actually had this moment with Vijay.
Yes. I want you to think about this for a minute. I literally want you to think about this for a minute. It's like, I will tell you this. If there's one thing I can't stand, and I think I can speak for Brent here, it's cowboy hats. So,
yeah. And
that picture is not photoshopped.
No, it's really a rarity that will never be replicated. That will never happen again. And quite honestly, even the hats that they gave us, my hat is way too big and yours is way too small.
We probably should have switched hats.
Yeah, but look, Jay's hat is just sitting so perfectly.
I know.
And we're looking like, I don't know, like the Apple Dumpling Gang or something.
You know, it's possible. Now that I think of this, it is just very possible that we picked up each other's hat and they were right.
They gave me like a 15-gallon hat and I got like an 8-gallon head. So it's just
mine is literally the opposite of that. Right? So, I look like Ben Cartwright right before he retired from the ranch.
Somebody gave me Hoss's hat.
Yeah,
and it just wasn't working. So all that to say, we're really looking forward to Vijay joining us, and we're really looking forward to everybody. Once again, this is one of those, we just want to have a conversation about what's going on, the state of things. We'll be a year into the pandemic. We're going to hear from these folks because these folks come from companies. They're senior level execs, but they're also coming from companies that are definitely players, big time players in the industry. So we just want to bring those folks together and just have a conversation. We're not trying to do any who done it and why they did. We're just having a group industry conversation with folks who are central to what's going on at their companies.
And to that end, we will also be announcing probably next week, I would imagine, we're going to do what we did the first time, which is the rolling analyst panels. And we have a list of analysts, but we haven't reached them all yet. So we will give you who those analysts will be. And as we've done in the past, I think we've set it up again for 3-3-3, right? After Nicole and Ginger and the two of us, right? Then 3-3-3. So There'll be 9 analysts who will be coming on to talk about what they heard these guys talking about. And again, not to sit there and trash them, to discuss the concepts, the idea, and and where they think the industries and markets are going.
By the way, Thomas, yes, that was in Austin. That was 2 years ago. No, that was was that last year? I can't remember because they did have a Zoho day. No, you know what? I think that was at Zoholics.
Yeah, wait a minute.
Zoholics the year before.
Yeah, it was when they talked about Zoho University for the first time.
Yeah, that was Zoholics, and remember they had the analyst track and the regular folks track, and I think that's where we got that. That's exactly, that's the takeaway. Yeah, and
okay,
yes, Hill, it was from hell for sure. Anyway, so keep your eyes out. That will be February 25th for the panel. All right. Anything else before we bring on the evangelists?
I actually had something, but we're kind of running a little over, so I'll leave it for now. Is my rant about Clubhouse?
Maybe Clubhouse will come up, somewhere in here.
Then I'll take over from the evangelists.
No, we'll bring them in. Maybe they will bring it up.
That's what I'm saying. I already bring it up, and I will just take over from them because I
already see one of the evangelists giving me the thumbs up when we're talking about Clubhouse. I'll let you guess who that evangelist.
I know who it is already.
All right. So I have a little setup because we're talking evangelism here, folks. We're getting religion, folks. We're gonna bring on.
dig deep into your pockets.
Right. All right, so when you hear the term evangelism, matter of fact, we ought to start with this tweet that came out. If I can only find there it is. Okay, so this was just sheer coincidence, I think, that this tweet came out talking about how the term evangelism has taken over from futurists as a buzzy new title for industry folks. I don't know about all that. Quite honestly, I don't even think it's all that new. I mean, but
it's not.
But what I love Ian's response to this. As a former evangelist, does that mean he's a reformed? Former evangelist for a large software company, I can disclose that there are 8 arcane rituals involving infernal forces that must be performed. Only then you will be worthy of being dubbed an evangelist, or you get a boss who lets you pick whatever title you want. I just thought.
You know what though? I gotta say, Brendan Witcher even though he misspelled evangelist, he's right. Witcher the Evangelist really does have a nice ring to it. He's absolutely right. Witcher the Evangelist. That's like a great.
That is
Brendan,
kind of cool when you think about it.
You really need to think about being an evangelist, Brendan, even if it's self-appointed, because you're
all right.
Witcher the Evangelist works.
Now, before we bring on the evangelist, there are certain things you think about when you think of evangelists. Here's an example of one of these things you might think of when you think of an evangelist.
Right now, and you're needing God to work the miracle for you. That God will not only hear, but God will answer my prayer. Now, if you're tired of the devil stealing, if you're tired of the devil killing, if you're tired of the devil destroying your life, you must order the personal package, and you got to order it right now.
I think you need to have some good lungs, right? If you're going to be an evangelist, and put that accentuate, that punchline, the last thing you say. You got to put that. That was good. Now, here's another take on evangelism, and kind of, I would call this kind of the mad evangelist kind of thing.
That maybe I'm a little too excited for you. Maybe I don't preach exactly the way you like me to preach. Maybe I don't have my suit and my tie on tonight. Do you know there's mornings that you may wake up and you may feel lonely, and you may turn to the phone and phone your mother up or your girlfriend or your boyfriend and say, start a conversation with them. Why don't you start a conversation with Jesus Christ when you wake up in the morning? Why don't you build a relationship with Christ? I mean, nothing else in this world matters. It don't matter how much money you got in the bank. It doesn't matter. Nothing matters in this life unless your soul's saved and you're going to heaven. That's the only thing that matters today.
That actually matters.
It don't matter how big or how hot shot you think you are for the executive for IBM.
I can see
give
Chris
me a
Farley
break.
going crazy here.
If you don't surrender your will to him, there's no way you're going to make it in.
I mean, why do you have to bring IBM to it? I don't know, but that's kind of mad on that. Now, here's the last one, and this is one where I think really I want to ask these guys about, is when you use evangelism to ask for a multi-million-dollar plane.
And also reaches out worldwide. More than 750,000 people watch his sermons online and follow his ministry's Facebook page.
Got in the plane that God so graciously gave us. We're flying home. As I was going home, the Lord, real quickly, he said, Jesse, do you like your plane? Now, I thought that's an odd statement. I said, well, certainly, Lord. He said, do you really like it? And I thought, well,
that's
yes, Lord.
Either.
He said this, so that's it? I didn't know how to handle it. I went, what? He said, you're going to let your faith stagnate? And when he said that, that shocked me. I went, whoa, wait. I literally unbuckled my seatbelt, my plane. I stood up. My pilots looked around and said, do you need something? I said, no, I'm talking to God right now. And he went back to flying.
You couldn't have done that on an airliner.
No, sir. No way.
Stand up and say, what'd you say, Lord?
No.
Okay, no, yeah. And the guy sitting over there saying, what the hell does he think he's doing? You can't do that.
You can't do that.
No.
All right. So, so this is where I thought we needed to have a little backgrounder to bring on the evangelists in the CRM vendor space. And so with all that said, here
they got a lot to answer for.
Esteban Kolsky.
They got so much to answer
Schneider.
for.
Vala, Afshar, thank you.
You guys are
thank
in
you
trouble.
so much.
Next time,
so much
before
trouble.
we start, next time you do this, go to a Steve Martin leap of faith to talk about an evangelist. Not those morons that he's just put. The guy was on the left on the last video. It's the one that used to blow COVID away. Be gone, COVID. I forgive you. Come on.
Hey guys, we just wanted to, make the atmosphere more to your liking. Bring you in.
Yeah, good luck on that one. We royally failed. We completely failed at doing that way.
No, I was just going to ask how long do you have to be an evangelist before you start asking people to give you money to buy your own plane? That's right.
I have brought it up.
Well, actually, for the
all right,
Vala has been the longest, so let's ask Vala.
No, I
Just
usually
having a little fun.
You're muted.
sit in the middle seat way in the back of a plane when I used to travel. So I don't have that playbook yet.
All right, guys. No, we're just having a little
Couple more
fun.
years.
Yeah.
Couple
Little-
more years.
That was.
Alex.
I'm trying to recover from that. Okay.
No, seriously. Not all jokes, but some jokes aside. Okay.
Very few.
Do you get some of that that tweet when people hear you being an evangelist for a vendor? What kind of, how do they approach you? How do you come? Because I'm being kind of serious here when I hear the term evangelist. That's the kind of connotation I get. I don't get the, tell me when you are announced as an evangelist for a software vendor company, what the first reaction or first impression that people have with you guys. And I'm being very serious this year.
I have to say for a second, when you said what the first, I didn't think you were going to say first.
Oh, yeah. Some people do say that, what you were thinking, Paul. But for me, I've had the title as part of my titles, as plural, since 2013. And back then, you got a little side eye, kind of what, and early on, I think when the concept was coming in, and that's kind of why I have two titles, because I can kind of read the room, and if they don't want the salesy evangelist going, I go with my head of corporate strategy title, because then, especially with customers, right, and prospects, they're usually like, okay, well, this guy's probably going to tell me more about like what the product is doing, what's going on. We're going to get down into some brass tacks when it's the strategy one, but when it's the evangelist one, that's usually if I'm at like an event or we're just really high level doing a QBR, that kind of stuff with a customer. And it really kind of depends on whether we're talking about kind of art of the possible. Where do you want to go? Where's your CX vision versus, okay, well, you bought the product. Now, how are we going to make it work better for you, right? It's like, so I kind of use both of my titles. So but early on, I got much more of a side eye glance of, and the joke of evangelism, blah, 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 before. But now people just kind of, don't think of it as much, because I think, to Mr. Witcher's point, it's become more prominent and common.
Right.
It goes down to, if you're really going to go down to where the term originated, right? We used to have technical evangelists. There are the people that learn the new technologies, especially in the open source community, and then they go and share and evangelize the new technology that is going to change the whole world and all that stuff. We did not have a similar solution or a similar position for business. So when you look at a CX evangelist, you're looking at somebody who understands CX, who does this job where they basically is an internal analyst for a company. If I go back 20 years when I first joined Gartner and what I'm doing now, it's exactly the same. So people look at you like you're supposed to be promoting a product. I have never, look, if I'm talking about a product, I'm in the wrong place because I don't know the products. And I don't need to know the products. I need to know about CX and business. It's that simple. I have people that can talk about product all day long. I have sales people that will be glad to sell you stuff. That's not what I do. I'm here to talk about business and evangelize the business outcomes that you can get through the technology, not the product themselves. Are our products awesome? Yes, the products are awesome, but that's not what I'm here.
I wish I always didn't also run product marketing for one of our entire product lines, because then I could maybe pull that excuse, Esteban, but it's not going to work for me. I don't need to know the product.
You guys need to hire a few more people there, apparently.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100% there.
So Vala, how's Salesforce look at it? How do you look at it? How do you look at it, given your role at Salesforce? Because you have a very big public presence too.
Yeah.
When I think of the word evangelist in the technology space, the first name that comes to mind for me is Guy Kawasaki. I think he was the first individual when he was working for Jobs, bringing Apple II to market, where publicly labeled as an evangelist. So I take no credit for the title. The title was given to me by Alex Dion 5 years ago. Alex was president of products at Salesforce. And it was Alex who suggested the title. I tend to lean definitely towards Esteban's view in terms of I've had people that have followed me for years, didn't know I worked at Salesforce. So I rarely, if ever, speak to products. But as a 12-year customer of Salesforce, my company became a customer in 2003. And in 2004, we launched Service Cloud, Sales Cloud. So really early on. And I've been with the company 5 years. So 17 years I've been with the company, but 12 as a customer. My point of view in terms of storytelling is based on a practitioner's point of view. I ran engineering when I was tasked to bring Salesforce into our company, and then service and support. And then my last assignment was CMO. So a lot of the writing and the content for podcasts or anything that I produce really speaks to market trends, line of business, roles and responsibility of CIO, CDO, CMOs, because I served in that capacity. So it's and as I have 54,000 colleagues that speak to products and our solution set. Now that doesn't mean, obviously Esteban's joking, he knows the product well. It's not that, we're not configuring the product and can use the product. It's just, I think, to educate and inspire and cut through the noise that exists today, you really have to speak to outcomes. You need to speak to the why, not the what and the how. The product is the what and the how. The why, I think, is what you need to overcome where your story resonates.
How do you deal with that? I mean, how do you actually produce things for that?
So I received
go ahead.
My entire company received an email from our head of legal in first week of March that said no more travel. And I was on the road probably 50% of the time, engaging with customers, partners, conferences, events. So that faucet was turned off. So I immediately made a determination that 2020 was going to be the year of content. And so from March to present day, that translated to 122 ZDNet articles, another 20, 30 articles in other publications. So I'm writing 3-4 articles a week. Ray Wong and I did 50 plus podcasts religiously weekly. And then probably even more number in terms of keynotes and what we call SICs, which is intimate workshops with customers. So so that's the source of the articles, the show, and then the almost daily. I just left a customer call before this session. Gives me plenty of opportunity to identify good stories and good people and good outcomes.
So what you're saying is you don't need to have a plane in order to do your evangelism.
You just have to have something to say.
No. You need to have a plane. You need to have a plane so you can actually go somewhere to have something to say. It's not, like you can sit at home and like, oh shit, wait. No, that was before COVID.
So Esteban, like, what's a day-to-day in your case too? Because I know it's newly minted. It's a newly minted role at SAP. Period.
Right. So I would say right now at SAP, 1/3 of my job is educating the people of what it is to be an evangelist and how to engage me. Right. I'm sure that Vala had this in front at the beginning when he was brought in by salespeople or account executives and go like, okay, we're trying to close this deal. It would really, really help if you can say commerce is the best thing ever, right? But that's not how it's going to happen, because I could say whatever, but if I don't have the data or I don't have the story to tell behind it, it really doesn't go anywhere. So once I get past that education, it's mostly research and finding information, talking to customers, talking to you guys, talking to consultants, talking to everybody. Like I said, it's the same job that I did as an analyst. You just aggregate information and then put together stories. I've read an infinite number of PDFs in the last 3 weeks trying to find good data points that would be like conversation openers, right? I see the role of evangelist as somebody who has conversations. We open conversations. I mean, this is all we do. So you need to have a good conversation opener. 86% of people will change their providers because of a bad experience. That's a bad opener because it's crap. But 70% of companies actually evolved their digital evolution in the last year by at least 3 months and at most 3 years, that's a good opener. So it's just finding and updating information that you're going to take to open the conversations. And then it's what Vala said. I mean, after that, it's like, where are you and what do you need? Do we need to, like, align the executive team with a workshop behind a common purpose? Do we need to, like, do a little discussion, like a round table around this? Can we bring 10, 15 customers and have a discussion about, what it's like to survive COVID as a company in the airline industry? I mean, it really varies.
Martin, how's it work with you in terms of that?
For me, I mean, it's a lot of what Esteban's kind of talking about. But what I think is really important for me is, we have this evangelism term, which kind of seems very outbound, but the listening to the customers is really important. Even before COVID, when I was traveling and going out there and meeting with a lot of customers, what was really important was taking that time to listen. And we had a really really fascinating couple of engagements where, we went in with some kind of like, okay, these guys are having some trouble, they're doing this kind of stuff, and just listening and being that person in the room who wasn't a salesperson, who wasn't the product guy, and who wasn't maybe the deployment partner from the IT or from the SI side, and just listening to, well, what are you trying to do? Not what are you trying to do with Sugar, for example, or what's your what's this process or that, and not trying to bring it up a bit and saying, what are your problems, what are your goals, and then being able to kind of retrack, sometimes come back out realizing that possibly the partner wasn't the right partner for different reasons, or possibly the product that they were using and the combination of products that they were using weren't the right ones, putting Sugar in, taking Sugar out sometimes in some facets, and really just listening. And that was really fascinating. Being able to do that even easier now, because I can do it at much more scale. That's a big one. But, like I said, the interesting part about what I do is still running so much of product marketing and doing all that kind of stuff. I get to have all these interactions and then bring back a lot of feedback. So again, listening and then putting that back into our release cadence and what we're doing has been a lot of fun. Because I can come out there and, where you've got engineers who are just basically sitting at computers typing code, giving them the reason why this should be prioritized over that one. So really cool stuff there. But then it's been really busy over the last couple of years with the company because we've rebranded. We've made this wholesale move to a cloud-first portfolio. We're rolling out these AI products that are really real stuff, firmly embedded in the product, not something you have to go out and buy and hope it works and do a big deployment. It just works on day one. So there's been a lot of the kind of behind the scenes work with that. Haven't been, it's almost a blessing and a curse. I would have been annoyed if I was doing all this internal work over the last year, not being able to spend his time out there at events, doing all this stuff, and this work needed to get done. So I was almost lucky that COVID happened so I could take the time with the team to go in there and really, respin some messaging, respin some of the high level kind of positioning and versions, but also just really get some amazing products out there. We're now, embedding, seamless omni-channel, AI, cool stuff, not to be producty stuff, but things that are really exciting to me and things that I can spin stories around that, I would have been bogged down in that and not being able to be at an event or something like that. Now I can't be at the event, but I can log in and go do something virtual that takes me 90 minutes instead of 3 days. So it's been really a kind of weird productivity boost for me to be able to play both those internal and external roles almost better than ever before over the last year. So it's been a lot of fun.
I wanted to pop up this question from. Oh, go ahead.
That was going to be my segue. I mean, Martin brings up the question of how we engage internally, because the external engagement, it's one part of it, but truly, honestly, the bigger value to our employers is bringing back everything that we find and disseminating internal, right? I mean, and I know I talked about this with Vala before, how sometimes it's really hard to find the right people to give the right information and everything, but it's you have to have a internal vision of how you actually going to coordinate and create a coherent message across the company, right? Your role is to bring back what's outside, but also make sure that everybody within the company speaks the same language and tells the same stories. I mean, we all work for complex companies with lots of products, and it would not be unheard of to have 3 different things being said by 3 different people about the same solution, the same product. So the internal effort is more coordination and coherence than it is like evangelism. I'm not going to create a report and research and disseminate internally because everybody can read the same way that I read, right? But I'm going to add on value from what customers said. I'm going to add value about like what other companies, other departments and other product lines are doing, and then aggregate all that stuff.
Yeah, I do that in these kind of in weekly and monthly and quarterly kind of framing exercises with the entire company, not just products and not just sales, but I do these knowledge transfers where I'm actually explaining, well, here's what we've been doing and here's why, and we align it to our themes and our messaging and our differentiators, because I built in a lot of strategy sessions 2 years ago, and we put together, not just I, the team did, a lot of these, what we call our hills to die on, right? And they really came from what the customers and our prospects and the people that we weren't necessarily winning from were telling us, and keeping that going and keeping that thread alive so that people are thinking as at least cohesively as we can do it, right? I mean, you're going to get entropy in some of that, and a company the size of SAP, I can't even imagine, Esteban. But for us, it's a little easier, I think, to kind of keep, because I just have 4 points and I try to bring everything back to those things because I think they're really important. And I do that, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and we try to do that as much as we can across the board. And it's, I hope it's helpful, but I think that as our product set and all that starts to materialize around this, I think it becomes easier for sales to internalize it and then bring it out there and to be kind of micro evangelists themselves based on the things, the little pills that I can give them.
That's an important comment, micro evangelist. Every employee should be able to articulate, the value proposition and earn the trust of a stakeholder, whether it's an employee, customer, partner, community.
Yep.
The listening part is super important because in order to maintain intellectual curiosity, really a good storyteller is always curious, always trying to stay teachable, because it's hard to walk into a customer engagement with a fixed mindset or a fixed playbook. A lot of times when I'm engaged with sales colleagues, it ends up becoming a coaching session, both for me and them. I want to learn from them. At the same time, I want to share with them my approach to engaging a customer. And the listening part, which Martin said, because I don't know, no amount of debrief, an hour debrief, a quick doc, whatever, is going to give me the contextual intelligence I need to quickly understand the priority of a customer. So when they're talking about business transformation, is it process that they're looking to modernize legacy? Are they thinking about transforming relationships? Is it how they capture insights to improve decision velocity? Is it new business model innovation? Is it how they want to enhance their product and service to do things in order to remove friction and make a better customer experience? And I just, 9 out of 10 times or 9 out of 100, I don't have answers for these questions. So a lot of times I don't walk in with a PowerPoint. I don't have a pre-existing deck. I don't, you have to develop the muscles to be able to listen, identify keywords, be able to understand their mission values, and then your narrative really dynamically is formed throughout the engagement. So if you're not actively listening, and if you're just waiting for a moment of silence so you can interrupt, you're not listening. So, it's more than Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hours of practice. I still have not perfected that art, but it is super important. Curiosity, empathy, and then, and flexibility. You just, what you believe is a value may not be the case depending on the sector, the persona, the line of business, and the sense of urgency and success factors that these customers are thinking about at that moment.
Yeah, that's interesting because I was kind of looking for.
I was going to thank you for promoting our product, Vala, Success Factor.
But it's kind of like language translation.
Sorry,
right? Yeah, but I was saying it's language translation, but it's not going from a different, it's English to English mostly in my case, but it's honestly, listening and understanding, because so many times I've seen people from, especially when we're doing like multiple kind of vendors who are kind of already been selected and you're trying to go in there and talk about the rollout and things, and they're using kind of their language first and enforcing and going these things. And people kind of look like, I don't know what you mean by this, but if you listen and you can translate your benefits and what you think you can do and what you can't do based on what are their priorities and what's important to them, and in the way that they articulate and express it, it's really important, because when you continue to kind of like push down your messaging in your words and in your language and only that, as if you're just rehearsed, like you said, like if you rehearsed the script and you're waiting for your moment to speak, it never goes over well. And it's really important to be reactive and listen and be curious, like you said, Vala, which is a great way to think about it, because it's one of the things I think that makes what I do, why I'm successful, is that translation aspect of it, where I'm not just waiting to push our policies and our terminology and our products. It's really just kind of reacting to what they're saying and saying, okay, here's how I think, here's how I would solve it. And sometimes it's it doesn't even involve a product of ours. It's, and just saying, here's how I would look at it. And am I right? Am I wrong? Am I talking the right things?
Right.
And the last thing I say is sorry, go ahead. The last thing I would say is humility.
Like different people. I'm speaking, damn it.
Sorry, go.
Okay, mine's more better than yours, I promise you. I was gonna say the last thing to what Martin was saying, and to pile on what Vala said, it's like the most important part is to understand that the people that work in product, the people that work in sales, the people that work in product marketing, they have a goal and an objective that is different than mine. My objective is to create a good conversation, to create a good framework in which to make a decision by the customer. That's my only objective. So I can actually do what Martin and Vala said and listen with an open mind instead of going like, oh, this is what I'm gonna say, like my feature solves that product. Instead I'm going like, okay, I'm trying to understand, everything that you're saying. I'm trying to understand at the level that I'm talking to, whether it's an executive level, or a lower level, different level of conversations, and then provide value to that by adding data points, by adding stories to that, and then have them walk away with a better framework in which to make the decision. That's my goal. So the decision's going to be my product, great. It's not going to be my product, oh well, but at least they got, the ability to make a better decision. Sorry, Vala.
I wanted to ask,
No, the last thing I would say for aspiring evangelists listening, measure your success by repeat conversations. Are you invited again to the table with the client? So that's one measure. How many times do you have one conversations and never see the client again? If that's the case, you need to adjust your methodology, because success is, a godfather of CRM once said, customer engagement is the ongoing interaction between the company and the customer, offered by the company, chosen by the customer. Just replace company with evangelist. If they choose to come back to you ongoing, you've got a healthy engagement. But if it's a one-off, you don't. So that's one. The other is how much of a connector you become over time. Are you connecting the person that you're advising to other members of your organization? The more successful you are as a trusted advisor, the more connections you're going to make, because you don't have all the answers. So humility is important. When somebody asks me as the chief evangelist if I have an answer to something and I have no clue how to advise them, I say, I have absolutely no idea how to provide you feedback, but I do know an expert in this area. Let's make a connection. And it's really rewarding when you take advantage of the network effect and create an ecosystem of trusted advisors, because that's when you sustain momentum. And the minute you pretend you know something and you give false guidance, you've lost all that hard work of establishing trust. So when you don't know something, just raise a hand and say, I don't know.
So how are you measured internally in terms of, every employee has to have their annual review and they get measured for certain things. How are you guys measured internally?
Well, so I'll go first because my answer is shorter, because I'm actually developing that model right now with the boss man, right? I mean, this is a position that didn't exist before. There's only 2 other evangelists at SAP, and they both have very different metrics and solutions. But I got to tell you that when we have the discussions, a lot of the metrics that want to be applied surround number of people you talk to, accounts that you help, the things like you may have written and distributed, how much you have, there tend to be more PR and AR metrics that they're actually evangelism metrics. What I propose, what I propose to actually try to find a way to make sure how to do that is like, the impact that you have on the Salesforce. I mean, do they feel more empowered to have higher level conversations? Do they feel more empowered to go into higher and deeper levels than before on a business model, not on a product model? We have, can we position the company to have discussions that we couldn't before, and can we create the conversations that are essential for us? So I'm not exactly sure how to measure that, but that's the way I would love to measure that. It's like, what's the impact that I had that we didn't have before? As an example, we spend a lot of time talking to CIOs because we're a very technical company. We do really well with CIOs. We need to move up the chain to talk to CMOs and CEOs, and we do that to a certain extent, but we could do better. And that's what my goal is going to be. It's going to be creating those conversations with the CMO, the CDO, the CEO that they couldn't exist before, and then find a way to measure that. But I don't, like I said, I'm still putting the model together, so I have no idea if I'm going to be kept around for more than a year.
We have a process at Salesforce called V2 MOM. It's vision, values, methods, obstacles, measurements. Every employee has a V2 MOM. Part of the V2 MOM is methods. So I specifically, as an evangelist, in my methods include references like number of media appearances, number of articles written about our company or the work or the research that I'm doing, number of articles that produce, the digital footprint as a result of podcast and social media. So it's a combination of external signals that speak to potential engagement. But fortunately, in the 5 years I've been with the company, every year I've had the fortune of bringing net new customers into the business. Some of them led to 8-digit deals where the CEO of the company reached out to me directly, and we ended up hosting and having a number of engagements, and it ended up becoming a large Salesforce customer. So I think the evolution of evangelism should include how you influence the market and your presence and your footprint. But you also, I think as you mature, will start tracking your impact on the business itself. I think you need to have a good, healthy company, because a lot of the work that we do is creative work. It's independent research. It's exactly what analysts do, connecting the dots and be forward-looking. So you can't have a rigid process where you're operating towards a tactical set of initiatives on a fixed schedule, because that ultimately will eliminate the autonomy you have to be creative. I get a lot of my content that I use to shape my narrative from investments companies, venture capitalists, institutions that like ARK Invest recently looked at 15 big ideas to shape 2021. And a lot of the thesis around autonomous vehicles very much matches my viewpoint of an autonomous enterprise. And so, it's not a traditional place that I would go to find data points that validate the technology and innovation that my company is investing in. So you have to have that creativity. So the rigidity around metrics, I think, can stunt your ability to look forward. And I think a good storyteller, and I just want to make this distinction about storyteller, because the founder of my company doesn't tell stories. Stories have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Stories are about someone else. The company founder, my company founder, is a master at narratives. Narratives are open-ended. Business transformation isn't a destination. It's an ongoing journey. We all know that. And it's inclusive. So when you listen to him, you feel like you're part of the journey. And you start thinking about how you contribute to a narrative. So I think that's an important distinction. The best evangelists or storytellers that I know are really shaping a narrative. YouTube, Paul and Brent for 4 years have been talking about things like NLP and voice-enabled smart devices, way ahead of people talking about the impact it'll have in our lives. And Paul, you and I 10 years ago were talking about social promoter score and reinventing NPS and how to measure CX and CE in a more precise way. And these were all narratives that, frankly, some of them have yet to come to fruition. So forward-looking people are always years ahead, and that's more of a narrative versus story. Sorry, I'm going to stop now.
I need to
That was
admit
great.
that I'm learning from Vala right now on how to properly kiss ass. All around, really well executed evangelist. With
Being likable is another element.
That's the class.
I'm hoping I get an invite
That
again.
was a master class on how to
Master class in kiss ass.
I got a totally different question for you guys, and it goes actually kind of goes to what Margot said when she said another word for evangelist is champion. So, well, but I want to go to a specific version of that. Okay, so one of the things I should say, over the years, both said people should do, but on the other hand, have seen people do is, because you'd run across a lot of lower level in terms of their position in a company, forward-thinking people who had very good ideas, didn't really have the confidence to put it forward, had wanted to find avenues to do so, didn't really know where to look, or even more so, how to look, right? And so they would come and say, well, how do we go about it, given we're championing this, but we're the only one, I'm pretty much the only one who is pushing it. How do I go about doing more with it? By title alone, assuming that not everybody in the company knows exactly what you do, but just by title alone for a minute here, you are sort of a natural person to go to. I mean, just by name. And to Margot's point, even if it's not exact, it's close, and close enough for someone looking for a champion to go to talk to you about possibly helping them with their idea. That doesn't mean their idea is going to work. It doesn't mean it's a good idea. It doesn't mean anything except that they have an idea that they think is valid. I'm sure that's happened with each of you in different circumstances. And plus, frankly, you're each dealing with the politics of your own company, right? And those are politics. They're not anything else, right? And you have, part of knowing how to do what you do is to navigate what's there. And so how do you deal with that kind of person who's relatively powerless in terms of her position in the company or his position? And actually, interestingly enough, the most effective individual I met doing that many years ago was this young woman. She was probably 21, and 7 years after she did it, she was CEO of the company. And it was actually it was amazing. Well, because she was fearless, but not most of these people are not fearless. But they do have an idea. So how do you go? Someone comes up like that to you, okay? Again, lower on the totem pole in terms of title. Idea may or may not be good. They're asking you to champion the idea with them, not for them, but with them, which means you're also hanging a little bit of your own hat with them. How do you approach it? How do you think about it? How do you evaluate it? Once you decide on the idea, good or bad, what do you tell them if it's bad? How do you handle it?
If it's bad, you don't do it.
No, but you're letting down. You're hurting somebody when you say.
You explain. You sit. A lot of times. I've been with my company a long time, and I'll give an example I'll give a good one and I'll give a bad one. Right. So somebody had some really good ideas, and they weren't being heard because it was at a time when we had a larger organization inside marketing in general, and I helped get them noticed and elevate them as best I could. Now that person's got a really great job at LinkedIn. They don't even work with us anymore. But those are some of the things that help. And you just listen to it and you say, that's a great, this makes a lot of sense, right? And it helped us. And the thing that they wanted to do wound up saving us like probably a couple $1 million a year in operations costs in terms of our SEO and ad spend and other things like that. And these aren't things that are directly related to even what I do, right? So I listened to it. I thought it was a good idea. Someone else who I knew had a not so great ideas of things, and you have to look at them and say, hey, I actually use the good person as an example and say, look how planned out this is. Look how much you understand the gospel and the metrics and all this kind of stuff that they put what we were using at the time. Said, look, this makes sense. I'm going to say yes and help this person without a doubt. And I said, well, if you can structure it this way and it makes, if you can structure it this way and it makes sense, it probably makes sense. If you can't structure what you want to do in this because you can't find the reasoning, you can't find, it's probably not a great idea, right? Or it's not fully baked at least yet. So go back and think about it. And, and that idea never really came to anything because it wasn't a full idea, right? And these things happen, and,
but
and I like to help and mentor internally as much as I can.
I think you have a bigger responsibility than point out the bad ideas. First of all, I don't think there's bad ideas. I think the ideas are not fully cooked, like you just said, Martin, right? And the thing is, like, part of the internal responsibility that you have as an evangelist, as a champion, as somebody who actually knows this, is the concept of mentoring those people. I mean, you need to have a company culture behind. SAP has, this is one of the things that surprised me the most when I first got here. The entrepreneurship is an integral part of the company culture. You're allowed to go and build whatever you want and like design whatever you want, and you will be given resources to try it because you never know what's going to be good or bad. But the way, ever since I got here, I got people come to me with ideas saying, "Hey, can you help me get this to the next level?" And some of them weren't fully cooked, and then the mentorship is what comes in. It's not they're like, "Oh, that's not going to work" or whatever. It's like, okay, this is what I would do if I was you. Like I did when I was advising companies all the time, there's these 3 or 4 things that you need to have better defined. There's this, messages, it needs to be more aligned this way. You need to define who you want to talk to. You need to know those things. And then you help those ideas go forward. Are they going to take off? 90% of them probably won't go that far. No, it's not a question of company culture. It's just that, but what people learn in the process is what you should be using as a metric from that. But the people that come to you, see you as a champion, as an evangelist, or as a mentor, and that they learn in the process, that, and that this coming from me is a really tough thing for me to say, okay? Yeah, you all know that. So, but the ability to actually help these people along is because I think this is why I keep saying my job is I continue to be an analyst like I've been for the last 20 years. I'm internal to SAP, and I see different people in different roles, and I try to make that move forward. So,
yep, right.
Man, this has been go ahead, Vala.
Sorry, 2 points. I think it's important to make a distinction between mentor and sponsor. I think what Paul alluded to is, in my career, in my experience, a sponsor is more important than a mentor. Meaning, she put her political, social capital on the line to advance my cause. So it's a champion that helps you, climb the proverbial ladder by giving you an opportunity to expose your ideas to a more influential audience. So that's one. I believe that wholeheartedly, sponsor is more important for your career than a mentor. And a good sponsor ends up doing both. But to be able to use your political social capital to advance your career or career path is critical. Second thing is you need to be deliberate. I think senior leaders need to be deliberate about being mentors and sponsors. And I also think that they need to be deliberate about reverse mentoring, meaning that, and this is that intellectual curiosity and humility, being in front of a single contributor intern who may be a grad school at a university and college, who can really talk to you about, modern digital channels and, where the millennials or Gen Z are thinking. I've learned a lot from people that were far lower on the ladder, but yet they opened my eyes and helped me identify the blind spots I had running a business. So I think those 2 things are important.
Great points.
All right. This has been a great conversation.
Sorry, I'm done.
I think we got a little latency issue with you. No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that, Paul mentioned politics, right? And Vala mentioned political capital and all these things. And these are things that while may not be easy to realize, somebody in this position has a lot more political power than is seen and realized from other positions, right? I mean, it doesn't matter who you report to, where you fit in the organization. It's just that you need to see things in a broader perspective that gives you the political capital. So, again, I spent 20 years working on my own. Coming to SAP a year ago, this has been the hardest lesson to learn by miles and miles and miles. It's realizing political capital and the power and all that stuff. And I try not to never start. This is why I mentioned mentoring versus sponsorship. I don't believe I have the power to sponsor somebody yet. I may in a couple of years once I learn the ins and outs and things differently. But the position that I'm in allows me to be in a place where the political power is much, much bigger than it would be for what is apparent to the position. And that's something you have to realize and be comfortable with.
Good point.
Why don't we just wrap it up there? Because that's you guys said a lot just in that question alone, but throughout this whole thing has been great. I was just going to ask, though, does that mean that none of you are going to go for the airplane in the future? Or?
I was thinking a car. Actually, you could start there.
Tesla.
Start with a car. Well, without saying it, I'm going to leave out the 2 cars you should ignore. Right.
I'm a car guy, so we should go offline. I'd love to get your car advice.
Look,
not a car guy. I wanted with an Apple Kia.
I'll tell you the 2. Yeah, the Apple Tesla.
Apple Kia.
I'll take the plane I'll take a plane if it's offered by the Lord. I will never pass anything offered by the Lord.
You know what? Just give me a good bottle of bourbon, personally.
That's right.
With that.
Oh, by the way, Paul, I forgot to mention this, but I'm pretty sure that your prior offer extends to us since we were here when you made the offer of sending you the best.
Too late, man.
I mean,
I'll have to go on.
Dude,
I'll have to do televangelist to raise enough money for that one.
I just want to thank. We call these guys oops. Let's call them the 3 tenors here.
You clearly don't need hair to be.
Hair glasses with some facial hair. That's what you need.
You can't have hair.
I was just going to ask which one would be Pavarotti, which one would be.
Well, if I'm either any of the 3 of them, I'll pick the ones who are still alive. Right. I pick the ones who are still alive.
That's a distinction.
All right, guys.
I mean, that's really the distinction. If you have good hair, you become CEO. If you have no hair, you become an evangelist.
It's hard work, my brother. It's hard work.
Oh, well, I'm doomed. All right. So now this has been great, guys. Really appreciate you taking time to do this and, just tell it like it is. And nobody yelled at anybody,
Oh my God, you guys have known each other for 100 years each.
Yeah.
No, we appreciate it. And of course, you guys are going to be back some form or fashion on the show, multiple shows, definitely in the future. But we really appreciate you. And we know that the Lord. No, oh, sorry.
I was going to say hallelujah, but I'm not.
Lord. We just screamed AI really loud.
All right, guys. Thanks again. We appreciate it.
That's right.
I impart my blessing upon you.
Seriously, it was awesome.
And on behalf of the Evangelists, I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
We are the CRM Players, and as usual, you know how we have to end this thing. And we're ending it now.